And welcome to this explainer. Today, I'm going to be your mentor, and we're going to walk through a truly transformative framework designed to literally unlock your true career potential. We are looking at a concept called the GIDA cycle. It's this fascinating approach that blends deep personal introspection with practical corporate strategy. So if you've been feeling like you're hitting a wall professionally, you are in exactly the right place. Let's get into it.
First off, let's speak directly to where you might be right now. Are you feeling stuck, a little overwhelmed, or maybe you're dealing with the deep, exhausting pains of workplace burnout? Our source material asks a really poignant question: are you simply standing idle in the marketplace? Sometimes a career stall isn't just a lack of forward momentum, it's a profound knockdown, like missing out on that promotion you exhausted yourself for, leaving you totally wondering what to do next. But what if that knockdown is actually the exact starting point you need? Well, here is our roadmap for today's explainer to figure that out. We've got 6 clear phases: facing the knockdown, discovering your self-vision, designing your blueprint, moving to output, securing sponsors, and finally elevating others. Let's start right at the beginning with phase 1, facing the workplace knockdown, which is also known as the basement phase. We begin this journey in a place of forced introspection, the basement. It's dark, it's quiet, and frankly, it's completely necessary. Overindulging in career demands almost always leads directly to physical or emotional burnout. It manifests as a massive knockdown moment. When you prioritize your work at the total expense of your health, your balance, and your relationships, this knockdown actually forces a pause. It's basically a mandatory maintenance window. So instead of seeing this as a devastating shutdown, the framework strongly encourages us to view it as a reboot. It's your moment to completely reevaluate your priorities. There's a really powerful quote from the framework that frames this pause perfectly. It says, "God connects the scattered dots of our experiences to bring meaning and beauty to people, languages, and nations." This tells us that a setback is actually essential preparation. Now, whether you view this through a spiritual lens, like the author does, or a deeply personal one, the core idea is exactly the same. The scattered dots of your burnout, your failures, and your forced pauses are actually connecting to help you discover a truer, much more sustainable meaning for your life's work. And that brings us to phase 2, discovering your self-vision, also called the pre-vision stage. Before we can even think about solving any external workplace challenges, we absolutely must hyperconverge your professional life with your personal foundation. To do this, let's put on our opportunity goggles, so to speak, and look at the core definition of the framework we're using today, GIDF. It stands for Global Insights for Designing Advanced Fronts. I know, it sounds highly military, but that's entirely by design. It is a dynamic design tool and a lifecycle framework built for continuous improvement and sustained vision. The whole point is making sure that as you advance on your career front lines, your personal backend remains incredibly stable.
To put that into perspective, let's compare it to something you might have heard of, TOGAF. TOGAF is a hugely popular corporate IT framework, but it focuses strictly on information technology, systems, and enterprise architecture. GIDAF, on the other hand, takes those exact same rigorous principles of structural design and applies them directly to you. GIDAF focuses on people, processes, family alignment, and an inside-out transformation. It is literally the difference between merely managing technical systems and actually managing your personal and professional evolution. So how do we actually pull that off? Well, by doing an identity check. The framework states you must visit the initialization zone. You've got to discover your worldwide me. In plain English, this means knowing your core strengths before you ever put on your corporate mask. You need to identify your inherent gifts, the default settings you were born with. And then, this is absolutely crucial, you must start exactly from where you stopped. You simply cannot lead a team without first discovering exactly who you are beneath your job title. Let's move on to phase 3, designing your blueprint, which is known as the hypervision phase. The big takeaway here is that 80% of your value is already inside you, but you need an architectural blueprint to actually build it out. The high vision demands that you set the lines before you dig. Think about a construction site. You don't just show up with a shovel and randomly start digging holes, right? You need to map out your ultimate business intentions and your overarching life statement. You must act like the executive manager of your own life, establishing the big picture strategy before you even think about executing your daily tasks. Because if you don't know what your destination is, any place is going to feel like home. And for a career, that is a dangerous mindset. So let's look at how you actually build this blueprint by stepping down those lofty goals into what the framework calls a low-level vision. You start by defining your high-level big picture. Then you split that broad vision into major focus areas. Next, you apply the classic SMART criteria: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
Finally, you assign deadlines and map your resources. You are literally taking your abstract dreams and turning them into concrete, actionable, low-level workplace routines.
All right, phase 4, moving from effort to output, or the activision phase.
This is where we shift from being to doing. We're transitioning from that planning mindset to actually taking those audacious first steps. The source material puts it incredibly bluntly. Nothing works like work. You can have the most beautiful blueprint in the world, the most perfectly aligned identity, and the absolute clearest low-level designs. But eventually, you have to face life head-on, hit the gas pedal, and actually get to work. And this is exactly where we need to implement a little tough love to pivot your workplace habits. Think about an effort-driven culture. It focuses entirely on time spent, what the author calls ungathered diligence, and busy work that just dissipates into thin air. It's logging hours just for the sake of logging hours. Now contrast that with an output-driven culture. This focuses on channeled diligence, measurable outcomes, and making a real impact in a very specific direction. It is definitely not about how many hours you sat staring at your desk. It's all about what you actually delivered. To maintain those high outputs, you've got to audit your daily performance using tools of continuous improvement. The text outlines 2 brilliant concepts for this. First is the until loop, which is actually a concept taken from computer programming. Basically, you continue your actions and adjustments until excellent conditions and results are met. You don't just stop because the clock hits 5 p.m. Second is the feedback vision. The idea here is simple. Don't take critiques personally. Use both positive and negative feedback as a golden wand to refine your output into something truly brilliant.
That brings us to phase 5, securing resources and sponsors, known as the pro-vision stage.
As you start executing and building your outputs, you are inevitably going to need help, which brings us to the very center of the GIDAF cycle. Every single step up this ladder has to be sponsored and supported by a higher level authority. That's how you secure the right resources at the right time. You just cannot scale your career alone. You absolutely must identify the vision helpers in your organization. If you have a massive goal, you need provisions that actually match it. So how do you actually get them to invest in you? Well, you follow these firm steps for engaging sponsorship. First, align your personal aspirations with the corporate goals. Pitch the why and really show that shared impact. Identify the exact tools you need. Don't just ask vaguely for support, be specific. And finally, demonstrate accountability and progress tracking. By weaving your personal blueprint directly into the organization's overarching mission, you create a massive win-win scenario. It makes it incredibly easy for sponsors and executives to invest in your growth, because at the end of the day, your win becomes their win.
And finally, phase 6. Guiding and elevating others, which is the post-vision phase.
You see, true professional success isn't just about reaching the top. It's really about what you do the morning after you've arrived. This introduces a very powerful concept called translighting. Translighting is the intentional movement of a person, group, or organization to a higher pedestal of excellence through a sustained supply of vision and knowledge. It's way more than just transferring information. It's about being the exact mentor that you once needed. This is about becoming that 5-star manager who actively changes lives and elevates the entire marketplace. The core message here is profound, and maybe a little tough to hear. It is not about you. To be a true leader, you must shift away from a liability mindset. You know, that constant nagging thought of what can this company do for me, or how can I just grab my check and leave? Instead, you've got to adopt the ultimate litmus test of leadership. How can I help you? The absolute most valuable asset you bring to the office isn't just your technical skill. It's your willingness to go the extra mile to provide both internal and external value for your team. So, as we wrap up our mentorship session today, I want to leave you with one final, really profound responsibility to ponder: how you plan to use your newly attained success to translate others in your organization. When you finally conquer the basement, align your vision, and maximize your output, the ultimate victory is pulling someone else up that ladder right alongside you. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I seriously challenge you to start applying this blueprint to your career today.